the Banowetz Podcast.
Well, thank you, Kris Fassler, for being on.
Yes, no
Let's
problem.
use your whole name here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
So this is the Banowetz Marketing Podcast, and our guest today I'm super excited about is Kris Fassler of Alloy 6.
Yep.
Is there an end to that? Alloy 6?
Alloy 6 LLC.
LLC. I'm like, I thought there was something else there.
I usually leave the LLC off.
Yeah,
so.
that makes sense.
Yep.
So you do website design,
Yes.
and you are based out of the Nubo area in Cedar Rapids.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So Alloy 6, I'm actually just changed the name at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
It was Fassler Marketing.
Okay.
Super creative, I know. But changed that at the beginning of this year. But as a business, kind of been on my own for, this is the 4th year now. And so before that, I worked for a company that built websites and was kind of doing some freelance stuff along the side of that as well. And I decided to go out on my own and do my own thing. I've always been an entrepreneur, business owner, so felt like the right time. And so since 2016,
Awesome.
been running my own business, doing website design and a bunch of other random stuff that clients ask me for too, but primarily web design. So It's been good.
So how did you come up with it's probably pretty obvious, and I just don't get it. The name Alloy 6.
Alloy 6. So I was looking for something that was simple.
Okay.
There was a little bit of strategy involved.
Okay.
Starts with A. So it's at the top
Yes.
of the alphabet.
Yep.
For search, something
Yes.
that was easy. So I'm sitting there at my keyboard. What's easy to type? Alloy, an alloy is a combination of metals.
Mm-hmm.
So in marketing is a combination of things, right?
Yes.
And so same thing with a website or whatever. So I wanted Alloy 1, but it was taken. So
Did you get all the way to 6 or what?
No, 6 was just the next in line out of my brain. So
Okay.
6 is random. Alloy was
Not random.
It was calculated, I'd say. So
I like it.
yeah.
I like it. Okay, so tell us a little about family. Do you have wife, kids?
Nope,
No.
none. So
Okay.
that was a quick overview. I have parents and a brother.
Did you grow up in this area, or where did
I
you
did,
grow?
yep. So I'm from Cedar Rapids originally. I went to Prairie High School. So I'm a South Side boy.
Well, then we went to Solon. I think you know that because,
Yep.
So
Yep.
we are like rivals.
We weren't when I was in school.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, when I was, so we graduated in 2001, I did. And Prairie and Solon had a huge sports rivalry.
Gotcha.
So
We must have been that much better at the time that Solon wasn't on the radar.
Gee.
So
or the
I
other-
graduated in 97.
Okay.
So a couple years older.
Okay.
But
So siblings?
yep, one older brother.
Okay.
Yep. He lives in town. A couple
Awesome.
nieces and nephews.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome. Okay. So when a client comes to you and they're just said, I need a website, what is one of the first things that you do to qualify what exactly they need?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
You have to dig a little bit deeper. So my experience as an entrepreneur, business owner, started multiple businesses, just being around entrepreneurs in my life. It's allowed me to understand how to ask good questions and really kind of dig down and like understand what a client's business is, what do they do, like what's their, what do they want to be known for, what product or service they offer. So I started asking a lot of questions on, a lot of people say they need this or that or a website or whatever. Sometimes that's actually not what they need. So I start with just asking questions and figuring out, is it a website or is it something else? So that's my first task is really.
So
just
if it's not a
digging in.
website, what we're talking about, like a Facebook page or an app?
Potentially,
Or?
yeah. I mean, so give you an example. So somebody's like, they're building or making some sort of trinket or whatever, and so they want to sell it online. And so somebody comes and says, I need a website.
Yeah. Well, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe you should just sell your stuff on Etsy
Yes.
and go that way. So
Yeah.
that's an example of kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So people think I need a website. Well, how come? Well, I don't know. Everybody's got one. I should probably get one. It's probably true 90% of the time, but it may not be. So I just start to ask questions and figure out what are they trying to accomplish with that.
And when someone needs a website, when do you recommend if you do a DIY website like Wix or Squarespace? Or...
Yeah, no, if somebody's like, I want to put up a website for my wedding or some event or something that's simple. So the websites that I do, they're pretty involved. And so, when you're talking thousands of dollars to build a website, that's, it could be out of somebody's budget. So that's when you go to, a Wix or, some other Squarespace or Weebly or some other DIY thing that they can do on their own. Or if it's maybe it's a newer business, somebody's got a hobby that they want to try and turn into a business. Maybe they start doing it with an MVP. Like, let's not drop $5,000 on a website right now if you don't even know that the business is going to be around in a year. And so it's situational, obviously. And so you just kind of got to dig down and really find out what the best solution is for the client, instead of like, hey, somebody's going to pay me to build a website. That's not doing them the best service, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
and what do you typically build your websites on?
Typically WordPress, if it's up to me. That's my first choice. But depending on if somebody's just if they just want to sell something, like I said before, Shopify obviously is a great option. I've built websites with Shopify, built websites on Squarespace. So it just kind of depends, but I would say WordPress is my go-to for a number of reasons. Obviously, it's the most widely used platform, and I don't know the percentages, but like the majority of websites on the internet are built with WordPress. Yeah. You can customize them pretty much to do whatever you want. There's a huge community of developers that build plugins that you can customize and really do a ton with WordPress. So,
well, and and they grow with your business too, because large companies use WordPress and small companies use WordPress.
Yep.
I know enough about websites to be a little dangerous, a little less, but the reason I got into designing, I'm not a designer, but I know the reason I got into knowing what I do know is because as I got into marketing through photography and needing a photography website, there are so many DIY photography websites, and I was just not impressed with any of them, especially for search engine optimization, which they are getting better at.
Sure.
But 7 years ago, WordPress was the if you really wanted to have a good site, it was WordPress. There's a learning curve. But once you know it, I feel like having that skills to be able to edit a WordPress website is something that to me is just, I think it's just very helpful, because we can source people like you who can do the heavy lifting, but to be able to go in and make small modifications to your website and everything. Do many of your clients have capabilities to make small modifications to their website?
To an extent.
Okay.
A lot of my clients vary in terms of their level of willingness or wantingness to actually get in and do something. I would say in terms of design, that's obviously pretty set. And so, but in terms of content, if they want to go in and change content, or, they want to add a blog article or something like that, my goal is to make it as easy as possible for the client to go in and do something if they want to do it. Instead of hamstringing them to having to call me every time.
Yeah. So putting blogs up is a perfect example, because you probably don't want to be doing that all the time for your clients, right?
No, I do not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually one reason why I would really not want to be a WordPress or any kind of website developer, is because I'm just kind of like, I want to get my project done and move on, and it would be just constant. Yeah.
And so, I tailor the needs of my services based on, what my client needs. So there's some people that I want to empower them to be able to be confident, to log in, to do something, add a post, do whatever. But there's other clients that just want to email me and say, hey, can you do this for me? Because they're just not
They don't want
tech savvy. They don't want to touch it. They don't want to break anything, which is fine. but I don't have necessarily the bandwidth to do that for all my clients. And so, they just got to figure out what the right mix is for people. So, and in terms of WordPress on the back end, like I said, I try to make it as easy as possible for people to do what they need to do without blowing the site up, But in terms of design, a lot of times that's set, is what it is. And if they want to add something, then it's kind of a dynamic feed, for a WordPress site. Just try to make it as easy as possible.
So Kris, when someone comes to you and they say, okay, I need a website, this is the kind of website I am looking for, and you can tell that's up your alley, that's something that you could help them with, what is your process going forward with them on that?
So like I mentioned before, I like to ask a lot of questions. I'll usually schedule a meeting where I can sit down with them, meet them, have them tell me about their business, what they do, what they're trying to accomplish. And then I'm really good at filling in the gaps with people, because a lot of times people know their business, right? They know what they do, but they don't necessarily know how to explain it to somebody else or to a larger audience in terms of what it looks like on a website. So I'm able to kind of fill in the gaps for a lot of people just because of my background as an entrepreneur. And just so a little bit of more background, I helped build some entrepreneurial resources here in the area, in the hub. And so running different events and entrepreneurial events, I talked to hundreds of entrepreneurs. And so listening to hundreds of different pitches and businesses, and, allowed me to gain more understanding of what that looks like for business owners.
And what the end user is wanting to see.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And so I can kind of guide people down the process of, okay, here's what we need to do in terms of your website. And then from there, I'll kind of develop a plan of, here's what the website should look like. Here's some marketing messaging that we can use. And so I'll just, ease them into that process and really just kind of fill in some gaps for them, answer questions for them, and really just try to take an understanding of their business. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then after you get the overview from them, after that initial meeting, do you put together some concepts to give to them? Or what happens next? Yeah,
so, I'll put together a proposal, kind of outline some things that we're looking to accomplish. And, a lot of times it depends on the client and what their budget is. I typically won't necessarily do like mock-ups of a website.
Okay.
With different iterations or anything like that. It's honestly easier for me to just build a website as opposed to build a mock-up in Photoshop, iterate on that, show it to the client, gets feedback, iterate on it again, and then start the design on the website. Yeah. Because a lot of times you can do everything that you want to do in Photoshop right on the WordPress website. Yeah. Based on how I build them. And so fortunately, because I've done a good enough job on the front end, understanding what people want and what message they're trying to get across, when I show somebody the first version or first draft, they're like, this is great, And so, fortunately, I haven't had a whole lot of people say this, this sucks. We need to do it over, which is good. So, but it's easy to make changes, which is nice.
What do you do when someone comes to you and their logo needs to be modified? Like they need a graphic artist, they made homemade logo, they need to have a graphic artist, their text is poor and they have really poor images. Do you refer them to different people, or do they, how do you go about building a great looking website with poor design tools that you wouldn't have any control over?
Yeah. Now, if their web or if their logo is just not good, a lot of times I'll make a logo for them. I'll be like, here's your logo. Because sometimes they're just Microsoft Word. Here's a font I like. We'll turn that into an image. So, when I first started my company, I would do logos for people. I learned quickly that it's not the best use of my time.
Yeah.
Can I do logo? Yes. Do I want to? No. And so I'll refer that on to either if they're looking for a full brand identity, I'll refer that on to somebody that I know does that sort of stuff. If they're looking for a logo, they don't want to spend a ton of money on it, I might refer them to like a Fiverr or, some other logo design company that they can get a nice logo for pretty inexpensive. But, or if it's something that they don't want to spend any money on, I'll spend a few minutes and do something for them. So, but typically if they ask me to do a logo, I'm going to refer them to somebody else.
Yeah. What about imagery? I mean, do you sometimes get into stock photos?
A lot of times I have to, because I've just found most people just don't have good high quality photos of their company or anything that portrays their business in a good light. So I'll use some websites. Unsplash is one that I use a lot. I try to stay away from like the really like cheesy stock photos because those are pretty bad, obviously. But if you can do a good job of finding images that are nice, that can do a good representation, I don't think there's anything wrong with using, quote unquote stock images if they fit.
Yeah.
So
what's your favorite part of website design?
So I'm a builder. Okay. I like building stuff. I like creating stuff, whether it's a website or I'm in the process of designing a house that I want to build for myself.
Yeah.
Wanted to be an architect when I was in high school. So like, it's just kind of like,
makes sense. Yeah.
I'm a creator.
Yeah.
And so my favorite part is like just building something and be like, look what I have created, So it's like the completion of it. And then when you turn it over to the client and they're happy and they're like, this is amazing. And when you do it I've redone a lot of websites that other companies have done for 3 times the budget and 1/10 of the quality.
Yeah.
And then you do it for somebody else. And then like, they're like, thank you. This is amazing. So that's probably the best part is building it, turning it over to the client and they love it.
Very awesome.
Yeah.
Very awesome. Okay. So, lastly, you have had a huge influence on the Cedar Rapids business arena. And it should have been a first question, but let's end with this.
Sure.
So what are all the things that you have done?
So back in 2011 timeframe, I believe.
Okay.
I don't remember. It's been 7-8 years ago already. So a couple of buddies of mine and myself had an idea for an app that we're going to build. So we just started seeking out people in the community. Realized that the entrepreneurial community really wasn't like really that robust in the area. And so we joined a co-working space called Vault Co-working in the midst of probably over the next year. The 2 folks that founded Vault, Andy Stoll and Amanda West, were off doing other projects. So it was basically I was either going to fold or somebody had to take it over. So I volunteered to kind of run the space. At the time, there's about 10 or 15 entrepreneurs that were either, 1- and 2-man shops that were trying to build some stuff or just entrepreneurs, individual entrepreneurs that were doing their own business. We're located in the Guarantee Bank building, downtown Cedar Rapids at the time. And I realized for my own needs, because I needed a network of people that knew how to build a company. It was before I was really doing anything with websites or anything like that. And so didn't know anything about building apps or starting a company or growing a company like that. So we really started to get into who do we talk to, to do this. And so found out there really wasn't anybody. There was, there's just nobody knew about them. Nobody knew how to connect with them. And so that was kind of a goal of mine and some other folks in the area. And so over probably the next 2 years, really started to develop some programs within that. There's a program called 1 Million Cups that I got connected with, and it originally started out in Kansas City, but then we brought it to Cedar Rapids as the original organizer for that. So the 1 Million Cups program, Cedar Rapids was the 6th city in the United States to kind of bring that program to the area. And now I think it's probably over 100 cities today. And so kind of organize that. And really the goal was to bring a community of entrepreneurs together to meet each other, figure out who needs help, who do I need to connect people with. And so that's been really good. And then, over the process of the last, 6 or 7 years, a lot of people have come together to kind of accelerate that. For me, it was, okay, we need to do this because I had some selfish needs for that. And it wasn't something that I wanted to do forever. There was other people better suited for that long term that are doing that now, because I knew I wanted to run my own company.
Yeah.
Right. But we also needed to bring people together to bring a community of people so that if people like me are starting a business, there's a place to go. And so that place today, in my mind, is down in Nubo in the building that I'm in.
Yeah.
And so it's just a great opportunity for people to build a company. And so now out of that is the Nubo Co. and the Iowa Startup Accelerator and whatnot.
And Iowa Big, is that part of?
Iowa Big is not necessarily part of that. They're just in the building. So Iowa Big was a member of Vault.
Okay.
Originally, because they wanted to get out of the school building and teach kids in an entrepreneurial environment. So they've been involved in Vault, basically since the beginning. So yeah, it's been good to kind of see that process. I don't really have any involvement in that anymore just because I'm building my own business, So for about three years, I was heavily involved in trying to help everybody else and kind of building a community. And there's a lot of people that, have come together and taken that 10 steps higher than what I ever did. So
there's a lot going on in that area.
Yes.
So.
Yep.
And then my uncle, Frank Camp.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. So
yeah, he's
Frank's
volunteer
in the building.
attorney. Well, not volunteer. I guess he does.
I'm pretty sure he's on the payroll.
He's on the payroll.
So maybe volunteer for you. But
he doesn't. Well, no, that's not true. He did give us some advice. My mom just actually purchased 25% of Banowetz Marketing.
Oh, nice.
And so I have my own attorney. Banowetz Marketing has their own attorney. And then he looked over the papers.
Gotcha.
And gave us some free advice on that. So.
Yeah. Frank looked over some papers of mine that I had too on another company that I have. So he's
a good guy. Yeah. So he's my mom's brother.
Gotcha.
My mom's older brother. So
cool.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and they grew up in this area, and so yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, we know a lot of the same people, and the cool thing about the entrepreneurial community too is that because there's sort of a hub, a lot of people, can get connected.
Yeah.
So if somebody's got a question about, whatever, if you're connected in the community, like, oh, I need you to talk to so-and-so, instead of just like, what do I do? I think a lot of entrepreneurs or a lot of business owners, they're stuck because they don't know what to do next. And so the cool thing I think about Cedar Rapids and Iowa City is that people are willing to help each other.
Yeah.
Just like give you some free advice or point you in the right direction.
And that's how I got connected with you anyway, too, because, and I won't say who it was because I don't want to get them in trouble. But I asked, I just said, listen, this is what I said. I've got very high standards. I want to get connected with a solid web designer. A lot of people and a lot of web designers, but if you had to go to the one person, who would that be? And they responded right away and they said Kris Fassler. And I said, okay.
Cool. My reputation precedes me, apparently. So.
And then I've been throwing your name around with my clients too, because that's the thing is I'm like, listen, Banowetz Marketing, I want to connect people. Mm-hmm. I want to be kind of like that. the wheelhouse or whatever to just connect everybody. And I'll be frank to say I'm not a web I'm not a web developer, and I don't want to be constantly managing your websites.
Yeah.
And this is this is who you need to go to and everything. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That's so basically all of my business, going back to your point of like referring people. So I'm, it's just me. I don't have any employees or anything like that. And so my ability to stay in business is based on my reputation of, who I am as a person and the quality of work that I produce. And so for, 3.5 years, I've not done any marketing of my business.
It's just been word of mouth.
It's just been word of mouth because
which is the best marketing, by the way. It is.
So, but that goes, it's like, if you do good work and you're good to people, you charge a fair price, people are going to refer you. Yeah. So, it's been great. And that's just it's just ingrained into me, Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So if people want to get in touch with you, how do they find you?
Yep. They can go to alloy6.com. That's ALLOYSIX.com.
Perfect.
And contact information is on there. My email is Kris, Kris @alloy6.com.
Perfect. Well, thanks for being on the show today,
Yes,
Kris.
thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you. It's been good. Appreciate it.
And thanks for joining us. Follow Banowetz Marketing on all of our social media channels and reach out to us if you have any marketing questions. And we will talk to you later. Bye.